campaign. He believes that China is waging an economic war here in the U.S., and he wrote a book, Death by China. So Donald Trump took a lot of his ideas in the campaign from Peter Navarro, now will be front and center in the administration. We are also learning this morning that the Trump administration is discussing in Washington the idea of an early executive action on tariffs, a 5% tariff on any foreign import. Now, that would cause great consternation in the business community, particularly among Republicans in Congress as well. It is being floated right now as an idea, but it is one of the central ideas of Donald Trump's economic policy, again, that is coming into sharp review. One more name we learned yesterday of this growing administration, Carl Icahn, the New York billionaire investor, is going to be placed in charge of regulatory reform. Of course, that is a position that is largely continuing what he did during the campaign. He was a top advisor to Donald Trump, but he will also be in charge of appointing the next SEC commissioner. So these new names coming into view this morning, as well as the harsh view on China, really, Chris and Allison, is setting up a team of rivals, if you will, on trade. Many of his advisors are pro-trade. Some of them are not, particularly Peter Navarro. This is why in 29 days when he takes office, very interesting view as Donald Trump goes front and center against China on trade.
Yes, it will be, Jeff. Thank you very much.
All right, let's discuss this. We have CNN political analyst and Washington bureau chief of the Daily Beast, Jackie Kucinich, and CNN political commentator and political anchor for Spectrum News, Errol Lewis. All right, let's take our broccoli first here, Errol, because whether or not the president can tariff, that is something that would tax even your mind. Our tariff laws are a hodgepodge. I was reading through them last night. It took me an hour just to get a basic understanding. Title 19 seems to be the main law. The big burden is that Congress is supposed to tax, not the president. But under that specific law, when it comes to trade, Congress delegates. I'm going to pass a tariff. There almost certainly, Errol, will be lawsuits saying you can't do it. And those hurdles could take a very long time. But at the end of the day, do you think off if they say they are protecting U.S. industry?
If this does happen, that are seeing the price of goods rise, because this isn't, businesses aren't just going to take a hit and not pass that cost down. The costs are going to be passed down, and the fledgling Trump administration hasn't really worked out or hasn't said how they would keep those costs down should they decide to tariff imports.
Look, I mean, the reason you have to go through it is because I think what you're looking at is Congress trying to take power back from the presidency. They talked about it all through the Obama administration. They're talking about it now. And this is a situation where Trump may think he can step strong and he'll get proven wrong by Congress. That's why I'm pointing it out. Another area of that will be the Muslim ban, registry, whatever he wants to call it. It worked well during the campaign because there's such xenophobia here surrounding Muslims. But his reaction to Berlin saying, hey, you know my plan, you know, we've been right all along, which is referring to his Muslim ban/registry. Here's the sound.
Has it caused you to rethink or reevaluate your plans to create a Muslim registry or ban Muslim immigration in the United States?
Hey, you know my plans all along, and I've been proven to be right 100%.
Now, everybody agrees it's disgraceful, but Allison and I were debating, well, what is his plan? Because he started plus and minus.
Well, whether he calls it a ban or extreme vetting, that will end up in court. There are constitutional questions right off the bat about whether you can do it, how you can do it, how you would implement it. So, look, the reality is somewhere between what we have now and what has happened, for example, in Germany, 900,000 refugees allowed in with minimal vetting. Somewhere in between is where we're going to end up. Somewhere in between is where common sense lies. For him to say that he was 100% correct and that the Muslim ban, would have somehow saved Europe from what is going on now is a very shallow, very wrong sort of misstatement, not only of the facts, but of the reality that we confront.
Jackie?
We really should say that it is hard for refugees to get into this country. It can take 18 months. I mean, there is a lot of vetting already for refugees to get into this country. And when Republicans say, or when opponents of refugees say that they're just basically a revolving door to get in the country, that's incorrect. That's false.
But you got perception and reality, all right? The reality is the vetting for refugees is the most onerous and most layered we have within our system. The reality is that the numbers of crimes committed by refugees into this country are very low, almost immeasurably low, but the perception is they're dangerous.
But I'm glad, but Jackie's pointing out something important, which is it's completely different than Germany. So you can't look at Germany and say, look, there you go, Exhibit A, see what happens. We have a completely different system.
Or can you, though, because that's always been true, right? The fears here in this have never been
success for decades in bringing immigrants into our system. Totally different. It's a world away from what goes on in Germany, where you can be, say, a Turkish, or the son or the grandson of Turkish immigrants, and you still can't become German. So, I mean, there's an isolation there. There's a failure to assimilate. There's a problem that they are going to have to deal with on their own terms. They've got elections this year. That's how they're going to sort of work that out. In the United States, it is key to our security. Everyone says this. The police commissioners say this. The national security people say this. It is key to our system that we not be xenophobic, that we not be racist, that we not be exclusionary, that we not isolate these communities. And to the extent that you hear Trump's rhetoric taking us in that direction, it is a real problem. It might appear to be sort of a great simple way to keep America safe. But the reality is we could be undermining our public safety. That's the discussion that needs to happen.
Very good point. Errol, Jackie, thank you very much. Coming up at 8 o'clock, we will ask President-elect Trump's senior advisor and former campaign manager, Kellyanne Conway, about all of these issues, 29 days away from the inauguration.
Also, North Carolina's state legislature fails to repeal the so-called bathroom bill. What happened? There was a political surprise in there. We got a live report from Raleigh ahead on New Day.